so how long have you served of this 40-year sentence?
23 years and 9 months.
23 years and 9 months. And how old are you today?
62.
62. Okay. The details of this case are, they're quite troubling. The age of the victim, that's very troubling.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had sex offender treatment? Have you had all those courses?
Yes, ma'am. I took all of them, and then I facilitated it for going on 15 years now. 16 years.
Great. Because now one of the things I read somewhere, I don't know if it was recent or since, because I saw that you were a facilitator, so that's why it was so concerning for me. It said that you had said, like I said, I don't know when you stated this. I don't have a date attached to it. That you were having a consensual relationship with the victim, and that she was not a virgin, and that it was just a relationship. And it was disturbing to hear you say you were in a relationship with an 11 to 12-year-old girl. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you say to that now? Now that you are a sex offender treatment facilitator, what do you say to that now?
Well, I mean, it was my fault, clearly. I mean, everything, it was my fault. She had nothing, it wasn't her fault at all. She had nothing to do with that. And I see that now, especially since I've gone through all the classes. And the main thing is, since I give my life to God, and I did the experiencing God, that was one of the best things I ever done. And God showed me a lot of stuff about myself that needed to be changed. And He showed me how that I could change it, and gave me the tools through His Word and the strength to be able to do that there. And then the sex offense class helped a lot. I mean, a whole lot. And the risk factors and all that, they're good in telling you where you're at. But to me, personally, the main thing that helps you the very most is the ROCO scale. Because if you really, really, truly don't want to be an offender again, whenever you go out there on the street, do the ROCO scale, it shows you at any moment what risk you are, whether you're at high, a moderate risk, low risk, or high risk and stuff. And so, you as an individual, you know your triggers. You know what things is bad for you or not. And so then you know not to be there. That if you're in, like if you're getting close to a high risk, so you don't need to be there. Even in a moderate risk, the best one to be in is in a low.
Yes, sir. And you recognize that that's going to be for a lifetime.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's going to be for a lifetime. Yeah, that's okay. And if you are successful today, your plans is to move to Texas and live with your father?
Yes, ma'am. My dad, he's 87 years old. He just had a birthday in February, but he's 87.
Okay, I had 83. All right, 87. Okay.
Yeah. But he's in bad shape. He's disabled. He's in a wheelchair. He lives alone. My mom, she passed away 5 years ago. And so my dad, he lives all by himself. Now, I got two sisters, but they live over 100-something miles away from him, so they can't be there with him all the time to help him whenever he needs help. So he's basically there by himself. And so I'm going to go there and stay with him and help him. And then I'm going to take over. He got a lawn care business. Of course, he ain't doing much now. He got a couple of guys still working for him, but he's got all the equipment and everything that's needed. It won't be hard for me to.
That's in the record. Thank you, sir. That's in the record. I read that in the record. But with your health concerns, and that's a whole nother concern as well. So call out for the record some of the other programs that you had. I saw you got your high school diploma and you got a technical trade as well in landscaping. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. In horticulture? Yes, ma'am.
Horticulture, yeah, I'm sorry, horticulture. So what else? Just put on the record some of the programs you've had an opportunity to take.
Okay, like I said, I've done Experiencing God. I've done the Timothy Club. I've done Celebrating Recovery. I've done that for 2 years, 3 years. I went through 3 different times. And then Bible storytelling. And because I've done anger management, advanced anger management, stress management, advanced stress management.
Good.
I'm taking the substance abuse class. And
I'm gonna stop you right there. On the substance abuse, what was your drug of choice?
Marijuana.
Okay. So you were high on all these encounters? You had smoked marijuana?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So that's one of your high triggers, you know that?
Yeah, and praise God that I don't have the desire for the drug stuff anymore. I can honestly say that it's been over 24 years now since I've done any kind of drug or anything.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, then. That's all the questions I have. Thank you for answering my questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Warden, what you want to tell us?
Jerry's record speaks for itself. You notice y'all didn't mention his disciplinary record. He's been incarcerated for a number of years, and he hasn't had any disciplinary reports.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot.
And I know he mentioned the fact that he's disabled, but he is able to do some horticulture and landscaping work. He maintains a lot of the flower beds and stuff for us on the south compound. He does an excellent job. He's got really good work ethics and works very hard in maintaining those. He does work as a facilitator in our sex offender treatment program as well, and has for a while. I think those comments you referenced, Ms. Wise, was in his Static 99 interview.
Okay.
In preparation for the parole hearing. So those were, I think those were actually made in December of 2021 when he was interviewed by Mr. Hayden.
All right. Thank you, Ward, for clearing it up.
Yes, ma'am. But he has an excellent history here at the institution, and he does have several health issues he mentioned. It was skin cancer and the glaucoma and the enlarged heart. All those things are true and accurate. He's been receiving treatment through LSU for and our medical department for those things as well. And he always has a good attitude and a really good conduct history here. I don't have anything else to say. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Wise and Warden Goodwin. Ms. Teresa, could you introduce the guests who've indicated they'd like to speak?
First, we will hear from Mr. Terry Norman, who's a friend.
Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that my dad and Jerry's dad were good friends, and I've known Jerry most all my life. And I know from just talking to him that he's changed and he's different. I know that he never did anything like that before. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that he has been reformed. It's kind of short and sweet. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Nathan, you next.
Next, we will hear from Mr. William McCorkle, brother-in-law. Mr. McCorkle, you can speak now.
Is there a Miss McCorkle? Is that Reggie?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, can we move on, please? Apparently they've stepped away.
For our opposition side, we will hear Ms. Stephanie Harrington.
I just want to start off with thank you, board members, for allowing me to speak. I don't know if any of y'all were on the board 5 years ago, but I'm a victim of sexual, physical, mental, and emotional abuse by Jerry. This abuse began as early as 3 years old. The physical abuse ranged from being thrown across the room to just being hid in places that the bruises could easily be covered up. Sexually, he had intercourse with me, put objects inside of me, videotaped me, and had other men have intercourse with me. All of this and so much more occurred to me as a young child, beginning around 4 or 5 years old. His threats of killing me or my mother were real and very much believed. Today, Jerry is seeking to be released from prison, which basically is telling me that he feels he has paid his due for the horrendous things he did to me. It's ironic to me because he did not just hold me prisoner for around 10 years, but I continue to be in a prison. I'm stuck in a mental prison with memories, smells, sensations haunting me. Until I began a family of my own, I did not realize the impact that these things had and are continuing to have on me. I've had to start seeking counseling again to deal with my anger and feelings of inadequacy, and even how to deal with my own emotions. I'm currently under the care of a neurologist and cardiologist to help with daily migraines, sleepless nights, passing out, irregular heart rhythms, all things that are a result from this prison he sent me to. The prison I will be incarcerated in, not for 25 or even 40 years, but for the rest of my life. Jerry, as I said 5 years ago, I have forgiven you, but you still have a price to pay. You talk about me, the things you did to me. You've not mentioned once what you did to your own son and daughter. Board members, I hope you're able to read back over my testimony from 5 years ago, since I did go into more detail then than I am today. As I said then, I'll say now, I just hope as you consider your decision, consider what you would say or do if your daughter, sister, wife, granddaughter were sitting here. Imagine the tears, fears, nightmares that you sat and witnessed them go through, have to process through, but you could do nothing to help. Imagine them spending the rest of their life in this prison of mental and ultimately of physical torture. Make your decision and just be prepared to share with your loved ones of why you made that decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Mosley, is there something you'd like to say to the panel before we vote and address your remarks to the panel members?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, now, like I said, I admit that I was wrong in what I done, and it was my fault. It wasn't Stephanie's. I've never tried to blame her or nothing else. But the thing of it is, I've never denied nothing that I've done. Never. From day one, I've never denied nothing that I've done. I've never held nobody captive. I've never picked her up and thrown her across the room. I've never done nothing to any of my biological children or nothing. And if I could change what happened between me and Stephanie, I change it in a heartbeat. I pray every day that God would touch her and give her peace and happiness in her life and heal her for the pain and stuff that I caused her. Because I know she didn't deserve to go through the things that I put her through, of the sexual relationship that we had. But as far as the abuse and stuff, and most definitely never, ever had I ever sold her to anybody, ever thought about doing nothing like that. It wouldn't. But for what I've done, I deserve to be locked up. I'd be the first one to say that I deserve to be locked up. But in the times I've been locked up, I've done everything that I possibly can to change me. From my heart, I've tried my level best to change. And the only way that I've been able to do that there is through the grace of God. God is the one who's changed me to give me the ability, the strength, the stuff, and the knowledge to know how to change. And after going through the sex offense class and stuff, I know that I'm never going to put myself in no kind of predicament to be in a situation like that again. Because I don't ever want to come back to a place like this. I never, ever do I want to come back, and I don't ever want to hurt nobody else ever again. And so I've done everything that I can to make sure that I won't, that I don't go out there and hurt anybody. I just want to be able to go out there, spend some time with my dad, what time my dad has left, and try to start a life for myself. That's all I got to say.
All right, good.
Thank-
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think the panel's prepared to vote. We'll start with Ms. Wise.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Well said, sir. Well said. And Miss Stephanie, I appreciate your courage today. I think you're stronger than you realize that you are. Mr. Mosley, at this time, and for me, at this time, my vote is to deny because of the law enforcement opposition and the victim's opposition that's been expressed. I would like to see you take additional substance abuse treatment and additional victim awareness programming. But I thank you for the work you're doing at the institution, and I hope that will continue. Best wishes to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd also like to echo Ms. Wise's comments to Ms. Harrington. Thank you very much for the courage to be here and to tell us what you've told us here today. Mr. Mosley, in looking at your record, you've done a lot of very positive things. You've taken all 4 phases of sex offender treatment, and you've been a facilitator for what you say now is 15 years. But I have some grave concerns about the point Ms. Wise raised in kind of watching you just a few moments ago as well in your comments back in December of last year, where you said this was a consensual relationship. This young girl was somewhere between 10 and 11 years old. Could not have possibly been a consensual relationship, legally or otherwise. And if you didn't learn that in all of your sex offender programs and you're facilitating, I'm concerned about that. I think you have a little more work to do. I think you need to be more aware and more in tune of what you've done to the victim in this case. My vote today is going to be to deny you as well. So good luck to you, and I encourage you to continue to work hard.
Mr. Mosley, I do agree. The comments you made are evident that your understanding of what happened, you're not there yet. I think you still have some more work to do. I'm so glad that you are involved in the faith-based community and you have those tools that you're working with, but I still think you have a little more work to do. So I concur with my colleagues. My vote today is to deny your parole. And I do echo Ms. Wise's suggestions about some additional classes that would benefit you. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cockroach. Consensual relationship. This is what he said. This is what he gave the interviewer in advance to his parole hearing. He said that it was a consensual relationship, that she wasn't a virgin. You can't make it up. And to think that he is the one that is teaching these sex offender programs. Frankly, I'm not surprised. You know, these programs, I think, are pretty much just jokes, going through the motions. You can't fix someone who does that to children. It was suggested, and I believe fully, that he was doing it to his own children, his own biological children. And we'll go through the court transcript. This one does have court. He went to trial, and then he appealed. This hearing took place in March of 2021. The interview that he had where he claimed it was consensual was December of 2021. Or 2020, sorry. Oh, I see. This hearing took place in 2022. Let's have it in my note a little bit off. And he had the static 99 hearing in December. So it's January, February, March. We're talking about 3 months before this parole hearing, where he was telling the interviewer that it was a consensual relationship. This is the result of 23 years and 9 months in prison. Of all his programs, you probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it, and this is why we do this. And this is the face of danger. It's scary because he doesn't, I don't think he looks, he looks like the dad next door. How scary is that? And to hear the details of what he did by his stepdaughter, it started at the age of 3. That's not what he was found guilty of, but I believe it. 100% I believe it. Started at the age of 3. Threw her across the room, videotaped it, had men take turns with her. And her speech, the survivor speech, is powerful. I ironically continue to be in prison while he just has 25, 30, 40-year sentence. I will be in prison for life. The memories, the smells, it still haunts me. Then his finishing speech, pathetic. And Miss Wise said, "Well said." Well said? What are you talking about? Of course, he goes to God. We see so many that make an attempt to hide behind God. They think for some reason that the board will think highly of those responses. But it's sadly, it's usually a telltale sign that the person is even that much more far gone when they go and hide behind God. I found God. God saved me. God showed me how to change. Well, sir, why 3 months ago did you tell the pre-interviewer that it was a consensual relationship, that she wasn't a virgin? And you even hear it. We hear this in interviews when they start saying things like, "It wasn't her fault. It was totally on me." Well, when they say that, they believe it was her fault. They believe that it was shared responsibility. Whenever someone starts, it wasn't her fault. Why would we even think it's her fault? No one's thinking that except you. So this was pursuant to the plea agreement, it says. He entered a plea to 3 counts of aggravated. They got him for that. So, and they do that in Louisiana. They don't care if it's your stepchild or not. They'll mark it as aggravated incest, which is great. I think they should. Now, why some cases they do and some cases they don't is beyond me. But now he appealed his sentence. So he took a plea deal. Then he appealed. I thought it went to trial, but he took a plea deal. And thank goodness a judge, actually gave him more than like a 5-year sentence. We have seen identical cases where they've gotten 4 years or 7 years or 10 years. And so, but the judge gave him much longer than that. And then he appealed. Now the facts, he married this woman and had 3 children together. Also had a daughter from a prior relationship. During September 1997 through May 1998, Mosley McAdams were legally separated, and he had weekend visitation rights to all 4 children. He confessed that over his time, he engaged in sexual intercourse with his stepdaughter on at least 3 occasions while he was exercising his child visitation rights. So this cockroach does it during his child visitation rights. By the way, I do want to thank Claire for emailing me this. She said, this case, you have to see it, Mandu. I checked my records. Richard had also recommended that I do this case, but we literally have thousands of rows of spreadsheets, so I just overlooked it. So I would have missed this. So thank you, Claire, and then thank you, Richard, for providing this document. He was coming on visitation. You can't make this stuff up. Mosley confessed it at least 3 times, right? She was born October 1st, 1985. And was therefore 11 years old during a portion of the applicable time period when he was engaging in the prohibited sexual acts. And that's just what they documented here, right? We know he started at 4 years old, that she can remember it for. Mosley was indicted for aggravated of SW in violation, and then the state notified the defense of its intent to seek this ultimate penalty. Thank goodness for that. At some points, Louisiana had a bit of, or certain DAs in Louisiana understood what a proper punishment was for these type of crimes. Now he did a plea bargain. He entered a plea of guilty on 3 counts, which are individually punishable by a fine of $50,000 or imprisonment with or without hard labor for a term not less than 5 years. Each count is not less than 5, so they could receive a 5-year sentence, and no more than 20 years. How is, look at the statute, the legislation. So if someone had done that to their own child, at this time, the statute would say that you can't give more than 20-year sentence. Make that make sense. Someone signed that into law. Someone said, I think that if you do this to your own child, we shouldn't give him more than a 20-year sentence. That would be too harsh. What? Why? Crazy. But someone, a group of people actually made that a law. It's crazy. On each count, the district court imposed a sentence of 20 years at hard labor, 10 years of which to be served without benefit of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence, or or good time. The court also imposed on each count a fine of $1,000 plus cost with 1 year default time and ordered Mosley to pay for all of SW's counseling. That was nice. They at least included that. The court directed that the sentences on counts 1 and 2 be served consecutively and the sentences on count 3 be served concurrently. Why? Why not have all 3 counts served consecutively? Thereafter, he filed a timely motion for reconsideration of sentence, which was denied, and then his appeals as follows. So he was saying it was too excessive. Wow. It's too excessive. The convictions are affirmed, but the sentences were vacated. They actually agreed that it was too excessive. Can you imagine? And what did they agree was too excessive? Provides that offender sentence shall be without eligibility for parole, probation, or suspension. The victim in this case was 11-year-old stepdaughter of defendant, aggravated of which brings to play appear to self-execute. I do not believe that it is wrong for the trial court to say without parole. In this case, however, the trial court's denial of parole for 1/2 rather than for the entire sentence was a misstatement of the law and should be corrected. Okay, so they're saying that the denial of parole for 1/2 rather than for the entire sentence, for 1/2 rather than the entire sentence. I would further note that the defendant received substantial benefit in the acceptance of this plea bargain to a lesser charge. In addition, other charges involving the stepdaughter and his own children were not filed. Look at that. See, here it is. If you want legal proof, other charges involving the stepdaughter and his own children were not filed. They could have filed it, but they didn't. Why didn't they? They felt that 40 years was enough would be their answer. They didn't want to put the children through more is the answer, etc., etc. But it's important to note that everything she said is 100% true, and this is a monster. The Supreme Court upheld the consecutive maximum sentences imposed for multiple counts. So we note that it was amended in 2001 to mandate the denial of good time to certain enumerated sex offenders. However, the law in effect at the time commissioned the offense is determined penalty. So I'm not 100% sure what happened, but to me, it seems that they, on his appeal, they actually said, hey, wait a minute, the judge was wrong to say that you can't get parole for half your sentence. It has to be for your full sentence, which I think made it more of a strict sentencing. But if someone understands this and are still listening, let me know. But I think that the appeals judge actually said, oh, you're right, we messed up. It's going to be, you're going to have to wait for your full sentence before you can even get paroled. But this is the face of evil. And I think what's terribly terrifying about this is that it doesn't look evil. He looks like the dad next door. And it's just, and then but meanwhile, he's preying on his own children. He's preying on his stepdaughter. He's doing it even when he's divorced and just getting his visitation rights. He's a monster. Now, he was denied parole. We may see him again sometime soon, and when we do, we'll post the hearing. But it won't surprise me if we see him in the next 6 months to a year. And one day he will get out. And can you imagine that? He will get out just to harm all over again. But with that, I'll let you go.